Welcome to Revival Cycles Tech Talk. I'm Stefan, and in this episode, we're talking about the Trucklite 7-inch LED headlight replacement. All right, so we're talking about the 7-inch LED headlight from Trucklite, and we've got one right here. This is one of the lights that we've actually sold for the longest here at Revival. This is one of the first LED truck lights to hit the market, and honestly, this has been the gold standard that everyone else has been kind of shooting for. You'll even see a lot of similar designs out there because, well, most of the world is filled with copycats. But this one is kind of one of the very first ones. It has a wide voltage input range. It can be anywhere from like 12 to 24 volts, so that's pretty handy. And like we've been saying in all these videos, we're going to do a comparison head-to-head where we see what the light output, how many lumens, what's the beam pattern look like, how many amp draw, all those kinds of things in an actual laboratory environment. And we'll get to that hopefully in a couple of weeks. So this video is really going to focus on the build quality and the specific features to this light. And we'll start with build quality. So again, we've got a cast aluminum back housing with a little bit of finning for heat transmission. These don't generate that much heat. Certainly it's a lot less heat than a typical H4 bulb or a sealed beam, but they still need to dump some of the heat from the LEDs so they don't burn out prematurely. We've got good wire strain relief on this, so this can vibrate and bounce around for quite a long time. In some of the research I've done on these lights, I've come across a few references to where this was originally developed for the US military truck applications, and so it's been through a ton of testing and a ton of rigorous abuse, and it's passed all of that stuff. So these are really well made. We've never had a single one fail on us. The light output is really great, and this has been used on so many customs and so many of our own personal bikes for years now that this is a good choice. You'll notice this one has a different plug on it, and that's because this is actually off of one of the custom builds. This one's from the Hardley, and that's why it's got this little machine notch in here that isn't typical. And part of the reason I chose to show you guys this light is that this has thousands of miles on it. It's been on the road now for a couple of years. It's been to France, it's been all over the place, won drag races, etc., etc. And even though this is a polycarbonate front glass, it isn't full of rock chips or any real marring or even really any blemishes. If you look really close, you can find a couple of tiny little nicks, but considering the abuse this light has seen, I'd say it's holding up really well in the long-term test. It is worth noting that the plug that's on here is not the one that comes with it. This is one that we changed to. It's a Molex MX150 plug, and that was chosen because it's waterproof, and we wanted to use a little bit less space than the typical H4 connectors and a few other reasons. Note, this normally comes with an H4 connector. This one's special. This is what we call a reflector style headlight or reflector style LED headlight. So the emitters are on this kind of center light bar, emits the light back against the reflector, shines it back out onto the road, and this is how they control the beam pattern and where the cutoffs are and all those sorts of things. Other than that, not too much to say. It's a pretty well-made light. There is one thing to note. This is the vent on this light, so you need to not mess with this little gizmo right here. You don't want to spray high pressure water at this, and this thing is really meant to allow some of the humidity and moisture to escape from the light without letting any new humidity and moisture back in. So it needs to be there. Don't fool with it. It's just the way it should be from the factory. Other things to think about are how it looks in a trim ring. So this is the light that actually kind of prompts us to compare what they look like in a trim ring, and it's because this one's a little abnormal. When you get this in the trim ring, you can see that it actually sticks out quite a bit. This is the normal mounting condition, and if you were to just kind of install this light in a normal 7-inch trim ring, it would kind of poke out this extra half-inch. And honestly, I'm not a fan of that. That's the one thing about this light that I really don't like. I wish they would have done it a little differently so that it fit more like a standard sealed beam or the other lights that we've been comparing in this series. Still, it doesn't take away from the fact that this is a really well-made and high-quality light that you will be happy with, and you can make little spacers and do some custom modifications to get this to sit correctly in your application. And a lot of times we'll actually just make a trim ring with no bucket at all, and that's specifically sized to make this work on the custom bikes. So what does it look like when we light it up? I'm going to use a special adapter because, like I said, we changed the connector on this one. And then we can connect first the low beam which strangely is the green wire. They've got these marked on the back of the light so you can keep track of what's what. And in this case, the white wire is our ground. All right, so there is the light all lit up. And I can see that the cutoffs are pretty clean, but we'll really get into that when we have all our lights on the comparison test. So it looks pretty good. How about the high beam? And there we go, we got the high beam, and you can see that it now lights up both halves of the light. Still excellent light color, excellent light output, really well made piece. One other really important thing to note is that this is in fact a DOT approved headlight, and what we've been talking about in all of these LED headlight videos is that the DOT rating is actually quite important. There's a lot of knockoff lights out there, particularly coming from China. They don't carry that DOT rating, which means you have no idea what they actually do or what the beam patterns are or what the cutoffs are, and easily you could be blinding oncoming traffic, which is the last thing you want. If you're on a backcountry road, some guy's coming at you in a big truck, the last thing you want is for him to not see you because he's blinded by your light. So get a DOT light, it's worth it. And like I said, we've used this on a ton of customs. It's something that we've been really happy with. The performance is great, the quality is great. Yeah, the price is not exactly cheap, but you also get what you pay for in this world. So we use the products that we sell on the customs that we build, and that means we understand exactly how they work and how to integrate it in with virtually any motorcycle. So if you run into problems or questions on your application, send us an email at techsupport@revivalcycles.com or give us a phone call, and we're always here to help you get your project back on the road. Thanks for watching.